What's up, everybody? I'm Justin,
I'm Jerry.
and y'all have been added to the anime group chat. Today, we are reviewing one of the most exciting chapters of Chainsaw Man that I have read in a long time, Chapter 107, School Attacker. Quick recap of the chapter before we get into it. We've got Asa slash Yoru facing off against Yuko, who is empowered by the Justice Devil at this point. She's arrived at school to handle Asa's bullies, but Yoru's standing in the way. Yoru begins the fight by using weapons from around the school. We're talking pencils, floorboards ready, everything. But unfortunately, Yoru and Asa don't really have any kind of guilt attachment to those weapons. They're not anything against Yuko. She easily makes her way past Asa and continues toward the bullies. As she's on her way, we see the first appearance of the Devil Hunter Club. They pop out, they get named, and unfortunately, in Tatsuki Fujimoto style, they get bodied in the next panel. What will become of them? Who knows? But at this point, they're down for the count. And Yuko continues to make her way toward Asa's bullies. However, with no other plan in mind, Yoru makes the claim that she is going to give everything to Asa and let her handle it from this point. And the Justice Devil, Yuko, being able to read intentions, sees what Asa's thinking and is somehow scared about what's about to happen in this next chapter, 108. So that is 107, School Attacker. Honestly, again, such an action-packed chapter. Jerry, what'd you like about it?
You touched on it at the end there. What I love about this chapter is the action, right? As soon as you open up the chapter, they're squabbing, okay? Yoru didn't come to talk. She came for that action. And I think this chapter is a great opportunity for Fujimoto to show why he is just in a class of his own right now when it comes to drawing really fluid, dynamic panels where the flow of movement kind of makes the action just jump off of the page. I think that ability and level to bring the action to life, in my opinion, is only comparable to some of the old school, seinen manga, like Vagabond, for instance, where the action is just so fluid. It's like you're watching a movie instead of an actual manga. This was also the most action I think that we've seen in part 2 so far. I think Cockroach Devil could be on that same level, but Fujimoto really just lets loose in this chapter, and I'm overall just here for it, man. I'm so excited for it.
I hear you. I have to honestly concur with that. I think that Cockroach Devil was an interesting fight, and it was great to see Denji come back, but I feel as though this was the first time, other than the very first chapter, that we're really seeing Yoru at work. And even though the weapons that, the War Devil deployed were a little weak, I'm cracking up at like Pencil Spear. Come on, like just whipping the whole arsenal out. And it was just so interesting to see the power at play with inanimate objects. It was just such an interesting chapter all around, but especially when it came to the action.
And I think that's a really good point. We talk about the weapons that we're seeing in this chapter aren't the strongest that we've seen. They're a bit underwhelming, perhaps, but Fujimoto has done this in the past where you sort of get a glimpse of the potential of someone's ability, or, what chainsaws could actually do eventually, right? Yoru talks about how she was so much more powerful before Chainsaw Man took a bite out of her. And so I think we can look at this chapter and see the style of the fighting, but almost extrapolate Yoru at full scale, at full power is going to be this times 10, right? And what will that actually look in an all-out fight with someone like a fully realized Chainsaw Man, for instance? It's going to be havoc. So I think there's a lot of foreshadowing within this chapter, both on the fighting side, but also just like the scale and ambition of these abilities.
Yeah, I'm personally excited to see, Yoru at full strength. I was also kind of excited to see the Devil Hunter Club at full strength, and we know where that went. I really love how Tatsuki Fujimoto will name some characters, bring them into the story, make you feel like you're about to grow attached, just literally all the toxic signs. It's just the relationship beginning, and then suddenly just deads them in the next panel. I love him for that, and at the same time, I hate him for that, because here I am wanting to see the Devil Hunter Club get into some action.
Man, it's a great point, right? For me, I was really surprised that they showed up and actually kind of did some work. I was really expecting in true Chainsaw Man fashion, they show up and immediately get dropped. But no, there were a couple of parries. I think you had like Brass Knuckles guy, Crossbow Kid, Katana Girl, like
Jotaro.
Yeah, they actually put up a little bit of a fight. And it was only, until Yuko said, okay, this coordinated attack is bullying. I'm going to swatch all now, that it really sort of level set your expectations. But there was way more to those characters than I thought there would be. But you're right. I mean, this is classic Fujimoto play on the shonen manga trope of we have this secret organization in the background. We have the Yonko over here. We have the Akatsuki over here. I wonder what they can do. And immediately you find out, like, there's no one special here. Like, this is the people that are special in this story, you pretty much know at this point. And there will be some standouts, but they aren't going to be named beforehand.
Exactly. And I feel like it's such a funny tease when you put it in that frame, right? The Devil Hunter Club has been alluded to, but we've never actually seen them at play. And my first thought when I heard about a Devil Hunter Club at school is like, how, when things like the Cockroach Devil alone will like level an entire district, how is a school kids club going to actually do anything? Like, why are they doing things like patrolling after school? I can see how, because devil hunting is a real career, they may want to just see what the career path is like. But I didn't think that they would have any chance, and I didn't see why one would even exist. And so when these hunters were finally introduced and they started putting up a good fight, I was like, well, look at that. That club has some hands.
Hey, they kind of got some hands.
Devil hunters. And then he's like, no, they don't. Like,
I mean, well, also, can we talk about how one of them got actually pieced up? There were three junior devil hunters starting this fight, and only 2 are potentially walking out. So, I mean, he really didn't hold back on the violence toward high schoolers at all. It's kind of interesting. Can you imagine having a police club in your school, like in your high school, kids, and with kids walking around? I mean, this girl had an actual katana. Like, these are real weapons, like a crossbow, a katana, brass knuckles. Like, they're actually going hard in the school. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where Fujimoto has built this wild, whimsical world where kind of anything can happen. You can have a chicken pet devil in class for 100 days and then say you're going to eat it, because that's entirely appropriate within this world, and everything is fine. It's a really interesting world building choice, and I hope we get to see the pipeline between this Devil Hunter Club and school, especially now that we know these kids actually have, you know, some technique, some skill.
They get busy.
Yeah, they get a little busy. So I would love to see the pipeline from that to like an actual public safety devil hunting position, because if you think about, you know, sort of where Kishibe stands on what makes a good devil hunter, it kind of feels like anyone who grows up wanting to be a devil hunter is not going to be a good devil hunter.
Right.
Unless you're going into it for completely the wrong reasons. I don't see you becoming like top tier Kishibe Yoshida level devil hunter. Although I will say Hirofumi Yoshida actually seems a bit too rational and put together to be as good as he is. So maybe there's an exception there. I don't know.
I'm cracking up at like the school devil hunting club pipeline to actual devil hunter pipeline. It's like only the most screwed up of you gets the internship. That's it. That's how it goes.
Right. Like it would have to be that, man. It's like when you graduate from school and everyone's like, I don't know how all these jobs are asking for 4 years of experience when I've been in school for the last 4 years. Like, these kids actually have 4 years of devil hunting experience going into college. I mean, they have to be some beasts, but where are their parents? Who condone this?
Where are their parents?
Craziness.
I'm also dead at like, 4 years of experience. It's like for their app, it's like must have a devil contract coming into this position.
Right.
Really not accepting anyone who's contractless. I want to build on that though. That fight specifically then led to another interesting moment for me, which was Yuko's perception of justice. She's empowered by the Justice Devil, and initially she's not even trying to kill the Devil Hunter Club because they're not her target. She knows they're just doing their thing. She doesn't feel it would be just. However, as soon as they continue to attack her, the scales shift, and she says that because she's being bullied by the Devil Hunting Club, they're suddenly all worthy of being targets. And I think that little moment in the chapter was, you know, amongst all of the other action that was going on, I think it was really significant. And I think it was a very interesting nuance for Tatsuki to paint about the Justice Devil. We've already seen from the very first chapter that clearly justice can be perceived in a certain way that is maybe corrupt and allows others to enact violence that isn't necessarily justice in the eyes of others. And so I think that this specific moment in the chapter, and, you know, maybe a view of the Justice Devil itself, is maybe Tatsuki Fujimoto's words on justice being something that falls in the eye of the beholder. It was very interesting to me how, specifically there was time taken out to show Yuko's shift in decision making.
No, it's a really good point, because I think from very early in Chainsaw Man Part 1, we see Tasuke Fujimoto using devil powers and the power scale of devils for social commentary. It's no mistake that the gun devil is the most powerful, or was apparently the most powerful devil, and that was connected to a mass shooting in America. So I don't doubt that Fujimoto has been very intentional about how he portrays the Justice Devil and sort of the shifting scales of justice through Yuko. And I think it's even more interesting because when you think about the nuances of Yuko's character, we don't know too much about her at this point. But one thing we do know is that she, at least in her eyes, doesn't have many friends. And she also, within that same conversation with Asa, says she doesn't really understand people. And so the Justice Devil is great for her because this will help her understand others and communicate. And so on the one hand, I think it's interesting because Fujimoto's saying, look, when people don't understand people and those people get power, this is what happens, right? You move away from an objective sense of justice, or one that's rooted in, morals, based around everyone, or the idea of collectiveness, and you become selfish and, sort of self-centered, and you do as you will. Because, this entire stunt by Yuko is incredibly self-centered, right? I think if she can truly read Asa's mind, she must know that Asa does not want her to do this. Maybe these are the type of people that the Justice Devil is looking for. People that can sort of be manipulated by their sense of justice because perhaps they are so self-centered or have some other personality nuance. But overall, I really do love the detail behind, I'm not fighting these people to kill them because they're not bad, but wait, they just ganged up on me. Now I can justify killing them. It really fits with Fujimoto's power system here. This is definitely one of the looser power systems in anime and manga. But I think it just allows him such interesting flexibility. And it keeps these fights extremely dynamic. Now that we've sort of gone through this chapter, there are all these interesting points to pick up on. Where do you think it goes from here? What's got Yuko so shook at this point?
I'm wondering the same thing, because I think I tried to initially predict rooting her decision-making in justice and what Asa might be thinking that would shift Yuko's perception of her actions being just or unjust. At first, I thought it was something as easy as Asa maybe deciding to kill herself. But I just don't necessarily think, now that there's been so much nuance about the Justice Devil and the way that it decides to enact justice, part of me thinks that it has to be more than that, more complex than just Asa threatening to kill herself. Maybe Asa is thinking about befriending her bullies?
Interesting.
Because I honestly feel like then if Yuko is acting on Asa's behalf, but Asa doesn't actually want those people dead, just like you were kind of saying earlier, Yuko is no longer acting in any sense of justice because they aren't her bullies in the first place, they're Asa's. Right. And so I wonder if it's not about Asa doing anything to herself, it's about her reconciling with the bullies and then them no longer becoming targets. So that's my prediction. What about you? What do you think?
That's a really good point. I think we're on the same path. Something is going to happen that plays on Yuko's sense of justice. I would be willing to bet on that. When I think about the future, I almost have to revisit my comments earlier around why I love Chainsaw Man and what really makes Chainsaw Man special. The fights are amazing. I think we can all agree with that. And, reread the chapter if you don't believe me. It's beautiful. It really is like watching the anime in low res. But the fights themselves and the actions in those fights don't make Chainsaw Man special. It's really the narrative resolution after those fights or at the end of those fights that makes the story special. I'm not going to say that Makima hitting Denji with the Innard Spinner 5000 isn't one of the hypest panel progressions I've ever seen in my life. But honestly, that really was just seasoning for what was an incredibly satisfying resolution that was marked by something core to Makima's character. The fact that she never really looked at people. She let herself be reliant on her nose rather than try to see all the complexity in people. And that ignorance ultimately led to her downfall. And we know that ignorance was a major theme in part 1. So when I look forward, and just understand that Fujimoto loves to fold the themes of his story into the resolution of his fights, I think that we have to kind of look at where Asa is or where she's been and kind of think about where she could go. Asa started off this story very alone, and she didn't trust or believe in anyone, right? She was effectively just this schoolgirl edgelord the entire first chapter. And I think Fujimoto, being such a student of human psychology and behavior, I'm sure he's not overlooked that people who are in this situation are often those who want friends the most. And so now that she does have a friend, someone who called her bestie, but this friend is wreaking havoc and killing people supposedly for her, I think it's interesting to see where she sort of goes at this crossroads, because I think there is one path where she actually leans into this idea of friendship and uses that to manipulate Yuko's sense of justice and leverage that to stop her. And I think that's kind of where you're going as well. I don't really know what that looks like. I would say I'm more leaning toward, she's thinking of perhaps doing something that would put herself in danger physically or socially, but positioning that in a way that makes Yuko feel like she's responsible. Like maybe saying, Yuko, if you're killing all these people on my behalf, you're also socially ostracizing me. Or it could just be a callback to chapter 105, and maybe Asa's like, hey, Yuko, I'm gonna pee on myself right now if you don't stop doing all this madness. I have no idea. I think that's the beauty of like watching and reading a Tatsuki Fujimoto story. I've told people from Jump, if you can predict the outcome of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, I'll just give you $5,000. Like straight,
straight up.
I'll give you, in anything you want, because it's just so impossible. So I'm really excited for what happens next, but I do feel very strongly that Fujimoto is going to take this as an opportunity to develop some of the themes that are going to be central to part 2 of the story.
I hear you, man. I'm just as excited because this story has been unpredictable from the very first chapter, and I love how he continues to deliver on that unpredictability. So looking forward to what's to come next. That wraps up our discussion of chapter 107, School Attacker. Again, we love this chapter from an action standpoint, story standpoint. We can't wait to see what happens next. If you haven't read it, get in there. If you have read it, get in the comment section below. Let us know what you thought. We'd love to discuss it with you. Otherwise, can't wait to talk to y'all in the next episode. Make sure to follow us on social, like, subscribe, all that. We want to stay in touch, and there's definitely more content coming. Until then, I'm Justin.
I'm Jerry.
And this has been the Anime Group Chat. Catch y'all later.
Peace.